Hi everyone, how are you? Is everyone okay? Hi friends, everyone who is watching this video, hello. I hope you are doing well. Um, I hope the summer has come in your country because here in the Netherlands the weather is still very bad. We are practically in autumn with a few sunny days. But that's okay, because in such moments I use my opportunity. I take this moment to make another video for you and share my lessons and my experience and my journey with the Word of God. This is another video about another topic, very interesting topic, one of my favorite topics actually. But before I get there, let me start with the warnings, with the basic rules. I couldn't find the word for a moment. I already said it in the previous videos that in these videos that I make, I not only introduce myself and my journey, and I try to share my lessons throughout my journey, but I also represent the only movement, which is the deeper life movement that I have started myself, initiated, and that I will tell you more about in the upcoming videos when the moment is right. But in these videos, I represent my own views, my experience, my lessons. I do not represent any other organization, any group of people, any sponsored channels. I am not being paid to channel these messages. These are my personal journey, lessons that I have had in this time that I'm walking with God, and that I believe could trigger something in someone, uplift someone to the next level, trigger change into someone's life, improvement, or even just motivation and inspiration to do something better, to do something different. We often underestimate the power of words and the power of stories, and I'm one of these people that deeply believe in the knowledge that our life experiences and life stories bring into our lives. But we need to share them with the world, because if we do not share them, then there is no room for impact. There is no channeling for impact. Our ability to touch somebody's life, whether that's for good or bad, is based upon our wish and taking action upon what we want to share with the world. Now, we all have different stories. I'm sure you have your own stories that you would love to share with the world. I hope you will find your own channeling and your own way of doing it. But please, try to share, try to learn from somebody else's story. One of the problems that we have nowadays among our societies in the world is that we do not learn from history. We have learned nothing from history. We refuse to learn from other people's mistakes. We even refuse to learn from our own mistakes. We keep repeating the same course and the same round and the same circle on and on and on, because we refuse to see the knowledge and the wisdom in someone else's pain, in someone else's message. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I do not like to sugarcoat things. I am not one of these people that will bring you a message to make you feel better, to, motivate you based on some nice compliments and beautiful lies. I like to tell my truth. Therefore, my videos are not for people who do not like truths. This is, of course, what I'm sharing is my own truth, but in everybody's truth, there are amounts of universal truths, right? Because we go through different experiences, but the lessons we learn through life are very similar, and they are repeatedly basically the same at their core. But the way we transmit the messages to one another and to the world are different. some people like the soft approach. I like to confront people because I believe change comes at the point where you tell the truth and when you confront your own fears and your own sins and your own problems. And then you can confront other people's problems. But it starts with ourselves. And if you are not strong enough to follow these kind of messages, and if you feel that my language, or I'm too direct, or I am too straightforward, then feel free to unfollow, feel free to scroll. That's okay. I'm not here to force anybody. But if you like no sugarcoating, straightforward messages, honesty, genuinity, that's what you're gonna find out in my channel. Again, the warning under the warning is always check, always inform yourself. What I'm saying, if I'm saying the truth, whatever it is, whatever you can prove, do it. Do not hesitate. Now, I'm not into conspiracy theories. I do not sell conspiracy theories. I do not sell things I've learned from books and from other authors. I do read a lot though, but that's not what I do. I do not reproduce somebody else's message. This channel is exclusively reserved for people who want to hear something different. The other disclaimer that I would like to share with you is that you may noticed, probably this is the third video that I'm doing, but maybe you have noticed that I've started very horizontally about the issues that I'm dealing with in these videos, although I do deal with these issues on 3 levels: personal level, on faiths level, and then I apply that on modern societies. I apply the whole message from this and from my life to the level of the society and the situation in our world nowadays. Because I believe that way the message becomes stronger and it's multi-layered. But I have started on a horizontal way in channeling my messages because I have decided to start softer, in a sense, with simpler topics, with individual problems. I am not starting with very complicated topics, right? I'm sure I'm going to make other videos for many other important topics, but I've started with simple behavior of humans. I've started with simple things that we see every single day, that we experience every single day, but we do not speak about, right? I've started this channel with simple messages about betrayal, about how our enemies operate, about confidence, about calling, about... Those are all things that we experience every single day, but we refuse, or we don't know how to share those experiences with the world. And that is what I am doing this. I hope I can inspire somebody else to do the same, and bring a message and share it with the world, always with good intentions. No matter how harsh your message is, no matter how straightforward you might sound to somebody, and I'm saying this because during my career I have been rejected many times because of my inability to sugarcoat things, because I do not camouflage my messages. And I think we have achieved a point in the history where we don't have the luxury to camouflage anything, right? It has become so bad within our societies. It has become so bad with individuals. It has become so bad within our families, within workplaces, within relationships, within love situationships, whatever you call it, that we no more should sugarcoat anything. There is no need to sugarcoat anything. The truth should be said exactly as it is. Yeah, that's what I stand for. Now, that being said, I am ready to get into the topic of the day. And today I am going to speak about leadership. It's one of my favorite topics. Why? Because leadership is not something just for a person or a group of people. Leadership shapes societies. And the way we choose our leaderships, the way we exercise leadership, is important to the quality of our societies, right? That is why this topic is important to me. For this topic, I'm going to be in the book of Nehemiah. I have also made some notes here, so don't mind me if I scroll through them just to remind myself that I'm not missing anything, because it's a very, very fascinating topic to me and I love it. But the book of Nehemiah is written by Nehemiah. And this is in a time where it's a book about leadership. The name Nehemiah comes from, it means Yahweh has comforted. That's the meaning of the name. And in the Bible, the book of Nehemiah is following the book of Ezra, but in the Jewish Testament, those are together. So basically they are following one each other, and they are put as one book. But it's okay, because we can read this book separate as well for the message that it contains. Now, I'm going to start reading. This book has 13 chapters, so let me check just to be sure, because this is important that I don't make mistakes in the facts. 13 chapters. Of course, I'm going to touch upon the first 5 or 6 chapters with the main paragraphs. I'm not going to read everything, because some of them are very long, but I'm going to read the paragraphs, as I always do, that speak to me the most about the message and that I want to get the core out of. I want to extract what's most important for the ones that are following these videos and listening, but also for me, because most of these notes that I make are applicable for my life as well. So I'm going to start with the words of Nehemiah. The book of Nehemiah is about a project building of the walls of Jerusalem that were destroyed by the Babylonians. And we are talking here for a period of 70 years time, and where the walls of Jerusalem were destroyed, and the Jews were forced to move out of their country in exile, and they were under the reign basically of the Babylonians. Now, Nehemiah was a cupbearer. A cupbearer was one of the closest people to the king, and in this context is to the Persian king. A cupbearer was the closest person to the king because he was the one who tasted the wine before it went to the king. So basically, kings back then, like nowadays, I guess as well, a lot of people that are in leadership with important functions might be scared for their security and safety of their lives. And nowadays we have security guards, right, that protect our presidents and everything. We have teams and everything. And back then they had cupbearers and advisors. So Nehemiah had a double function. On one hand, he would prove and taste the wine before the king drank it to make sure that he wasn't poisoned. So if there was poison in the wine, Nehemiah would lose his life, basically. That is how trustworthy he was to the king, and that is how much the king trusted him as well with his life, right? The other function Nehemiah had in king's life was that of the advisor. Of course, the king would ask him things, and he was there to provide information. Now, we are talking here about a project completed in 52 days that God had called Nehemiah to complete. But let's find out what happened chapter by chapter so that we can understand in more detail. The words of Nehemiah, the son of Hakaliah. I might make some mistakes with pronunciation, so excuses therefore. Just bear with me, because I'm also not very experienced in the interpretation of the Bible. I have been doing this for not so long, so I hope you don't mind. Now it happened in the month of Chislev, in the 20th year, as I was in Susa, the citadel, that Hanani, one of my brothers, came with certain men from Judah. And I asked them concerning the Jews who escaped, who had survived the exile, and concerning Jerusalem. And they said to me, the remnant there is the province who had survived the exile is in great trouble and shame. The wall of Jerusalem is broken down, and its gates are destroyed by fire. Now, this is an intro into the situation. The month of Chislev, that's probably in the Jews calendar, the year begins with March and April. So this is the March and April month here. And the year is, I wrote it somewhere down here in order to not be confused, 586 BC. So basically, Babylonians had taken over Jerusalem, destroyed the temple and the walls of the city. And so the city of Jerusalem was basically unprotected. And this was the start of an exile of 70 years long for the Jews. But some of the Jews under the Babylonian reign had managed to go back to Jerusalem. And so this person here that's coming back from Judah is reporting to Nehemiah. And he's telling him that the situation in Jerusalem, the city is almost destroyed and the gates are destroyed, the walls. Now imagine a city that has no protecting walls, because in those times, the walls that surrounded the city were their protection. Those were the protection of the city, the gates and the walls, because that's what protected the cities from the enemies and from the attacks from outside. Now we can also read this message in a metaphorical way, like the walls that protect our lives, the walls that protect our marriages, the walls that protect our families and our children. If we have no walls that protect us from evil, that is the enemies from outside, then we are vulnerable to pain. We are vulnerable to everything. We are vulnerable to be attacked because there is no protection. We have no walls that protect us, right? However, let's keep this message in the terms of the walls, literally. Now, before I get into what Nehemiah did after he heard this message, I would like to, since we are talking about leadership, I would like to start this lesson with, or maybe I should read first this one. Yeah, I'm going to read the first paragraph of the first chapter, and then I'm going to get into the message of what is a leader, what are the characteristics of a leader, and what is a leader called to do. There is some noise outside, I think, from the city hall. They are working here on the street. I hope this noise doesn't get to this video very loud, so it doesn't interrupt the volume. But if you hear it, please bear with me. I apologize. I don't have control over that, so I hope, don't get mad at me. Now, Nehemiah says, this is him speaking because he writes this book. As soon as I heard these words, I sat down and wept and mourned for days. And I continued fasting and praying before the God of heaven. I'm not going to read the whole paragraph. I'm going to read another few sentences just to understand what he was doing. And I said, O Lord God of heaven, the great and awesome God who keeps covenant and steadfast love with those who love him and keep his commandments, I and my father's house have sinned. We have acted very corruptly against you and have not kept the commandments, the statutes and the rules that you commanded your servant Moses. So before I interpret this paragraph, what did Nehemiah do here? He says, I sat down and wept and mourned for days, and I continued fasting and praying before the God of heaven. So he sat down and he cried and he prayed for days. He cried about what? He cried about Jerusalem. He was crying about his country. He was crying about the situation that was there. And he was crying about the fact that he was not able to do anything about it because he was in another place serving the king. You couldn't just leave your job back then and just go somewhere else. And here we come to the first message, which is very important about the leadership. What is a leader? A leader, I believe, you might disagree with me, of course, but I believe leaders are called to be leaders. And leaders are people that are born with certain characteristics and personality traits that help them fulfill a mission. Leaders are people that carry a vision, and the vision is, of course, something that other people cannot see. That is why also the leaders are the people that are mostly attacked when they come up with a vision that nobody understands, and everybody starts attacking them, because when people do not understand something, instead of sitting and asking to be explained, to understand, to reflect on the message that somebody wants to bring in this world, they attack. We attack what we do not understand. We attack it immediately. A leader has thus certain traits that help him carry a difficult task. Because when leaders are called, they don't go in groups. Leaders are called to stand alone. That's how they begin. Leaders are called with a vision. There is a vision introduced to them. And that with the help of all these traits and gifts that God has equipped them with, to be able to carry that vision and transform it into practice, into action, and into change. Leaders are agents of change. That is what they do. Now, one of the most important characteristics of a leader, of a born leader, is nonconformity. Leaders don't go with the crew. Leaders are here to lead, that is, to be on the front line. They also risk the most because they are in the front line. They get attacked the most because they are in the front line. They fear the most because they carry the vision that they have to prove to everybody who's following them that they can carry that vision and they can transform it into something beautiful. So the weight that a leader has on his shoulders and in his mind is enormous, is big. But they do it, nevertheless, for the calling. They don't betray their vision. Now, this nonconformity I'm talking about is also one of the characteristics that divides leaders from followers. Leaders question the status quo. Okay? They don't go into something saying, oh, okay, so I guess somebody before me did this and I'm just going to continue that. No, they question it. What is this? Is this true? Is this applicable? Is this powerful? Is this necessary? Is this working? That's what leaders do. And leaders come with solutions. Once they see a problem, they don't just sit on a table with other people and nod along. Yes, you're right. Yeah, I agree. You know, this type of people, I've worked many times with this type of people where There is nothing to be said. Just, okay, yes, you're right. Whatever you say, they are always okay with it. Yeah. Because these people are not leaders. They don't have the vision. God calls the leaders as individuals solely, and they start walking alone in their calling, in their path, with their vision only. With their vision only. Most often, and one of the saddest things that happens to leaders is they do not have any support in the beginning. They are all alone. They're all alone. Now, the vision, the other one that connects us to the message about Nehemiah is the purpose to serve. Why was he crying here? He was crying about his country. He wasn't crying because he didn't have any money or because he didn't have food on the table. He worked for the king. That guy had money. He lived a good life. He was in the king's palace every day. But he cried because he couldn't serve. He wanted to serve. Leaders are called to serve. That is a noble thing to do. That is a noble thing to do. Leaders are called to serve a bigger cause than themselves, because their goal is to leave a legacy behind them. Their goal is not to fill the pockets with money and not to become rich and famous and flaunt around their diplomas. That's not what a leader does. A leader has a vision, and he wants to build something that it's going to live when he no more lives on this planet, so that other generation can enrich it and fulfill it and perfection it and grow it and move it forward and push it forward to other levels. Make it even bigger, basically. So the purpose to serve, that is one of the most beautiful qualities that a leader must have. Okay, I'm saying must have because if we put this in the context of nowadays, that's not what's happening with our leaders. We have almost removed the purpose to serve from our societies. And we almost have removed visionary people from the front lines. We do have visionary people in our societies, but they are sleeping somewhere in the back because the wicked and the greedy and the liars and the manipulators, they won't let them move to the front line. Because no matter how great your power is and no matter how great your vision is, you're going to need a little bit of nudge. You're going to need a little bit of support to get to the front line. Even though you work with God, from time to time, you're going to need the right people in your life to support your vision, right? And unfortunately, nowadays, we do not support people with vision. And I'm speaking here about myself, of course, from my own experience. I am not going to lie to you. I have been the biggest reason that I have been rejected for most of my jobs that have been not low positions, but positions that I deserved based on my knowledge and maturity and wisdom and background, CV, everything you want, practice. The main reason for rejection has been in my life my vision. See, a leader cannot work with wicked people, with liars, manipulators, people who are there only to get for themselves, but nothing, to deliver nothing and to give nothing to the community and society they live in. When you work with such people, they won't let you get ahead because they are not interested in you, because they don't want you to dig deeper and get their mess on the surface. That's what a leader does. A leader digs deep and says, wait a minute, because there's a problem there. I'm going to get to the core of the issue. I don't like to sugarcoat here on the surface. What you see on the surface, that's not the problem. The problem goes deep, and I'm going to get the deep problem out in the surface so we can deal with it properly. And we can remove it. We can unroot it. That's what we need to do. Just like a doctor, you have to unroot the cause of your sickness. You can have vitamins all day, but they won't treat your sickness. Right? You need medicine, you need the antibiotics, and you need the big guns, right? The heavy artillery to treat a problem. And shallow people are not interested in that. Shallow people will try to push you down. Even though you have great vision, even though you are perfect for the job, they will try to push you down. They will try to break your confidence and tell you that you are not qualified, or even worse, you are overqualified for that position. When somebody tells you that you are overqualified, that's a way of saying, I don't want you to bother me because I'm comfortable in the mess that I've created in here. Because I was not hired to clean the mess. I was hired to stay in the mess and to keep the mess going on. And a vision and somebody with a vision, a leader, would disrupt that process. So they're not interested in that. Another trait of leaders is they maintain the values, the core values. Leaders do not negotiate their values. That is also another problem that I've been having all my life. In the societies, in the sick societies that we have created, we are often called to compromise who we are. We are often called to compromise our identities and whatever that we are, whatever value that we have, our integrity, our morality, our respect, everything that we know that is good, and that we have spent the rest of our lives to build that, because the values are taught in the family, right? Our society teaches us to give up everything, to give up on these values just for a chance, just for a moment of validation, that it could be taken away from us anyway later on, because nothing is guaranteed. Nobody guarantees you anything, right? Even those people who give you the opportunity, despite everything, they can promise you all day, but nobody can guarantee you anything, because after 5-6 years of your career, those people might not be themselves in the same place, right? Because that's how life goes. It's a transition. We move, everything changes. So then if we think in terms of values, if you don't keep your values, then what do you have left? When you lose that job that you thought you were the best thing that happened in your life, when you lose that career title, whatever accumulation people promised you in exchange of giving up on everything that you are. A leader refuses to do that. A leader not only refuses to give up on his values, on his core values and principles in life, he tries to teach and he tries to transmit those values to other people. When a true leader is in leadership, his work becomes about values. The values are the basement of his entire vision and mission and whatever he's building. So, are you compromising your values? The world puts an enormous pressure upon us to give up on our values. Forget who you are. Just forget it. Forget who you are, whatever you think you are, whatever vision you think you hold, whatever value you think is important for this society, just forget it. Why? Because I'm giving you a chance. If you don't, I don't give you that chance. And if you don't get that chance that I give you as a society or organization or whatever you are, or company, then you are nothing. That is how deep the deceit goes in our society. We deceive people into thinking, mostly young people, because at my age nobody can deceive anymore. I've learned my lessons by now. I am highly trained, people, no problem. You cannot deceive me anymore. But the young generation are easily deceived because they think, if I do not get that job, if I do not get that opportunity, my whole direction That job is important for me because it will define and it will decide the entire path of my career, and I need it, and I need it. And yeah, okay, so I'm going to give away one value. So I'm going to drop one of my values. It's okay. I haven't lost everything. But what we are mistaken about in this case, and what nobody tells these young people, is that when you give up on one value, the rest will follow. Because sometimes it takes that one value to betray yourself with dropping that one value that it might completely shape you. It identifies who you are. Let me give you an example. One of the reasons that I studied law was my sense for justice. I do not tolerate injustice. I don't. If you ask my husband or the people who know me, they will tell you that I will start a fight right in the middle of the street. And I don't care with whom, if I see injustice. Not just towards me, but towards anybody. The problem with the societies we live in is we tolerate everything. But that one quality of mine, the sense for justice that is so strong in me, I have never let go of that. That defines who I am. That describes who I am at my core. Who I am. If I would sit with a person and ask him or her, who are you? I'm not interested in their CV. I'm not interested in their trophies. I'm interested to know who is that person. The person behind all this facade of CVs and achievements. I want to know what that person believes in. What is that one core quality that he would literally fight for, no matter what? For me, is the sense of justice. When something unjust is done to me, I react. Because if we all shut up against injustice, that is one of the reasons that we are in the condition that we are as societies. Have you ever wondered why the world is in the condition and shape that it is now? Because we stopped fighting for what matters. We stopped fighting for the values. We stopped fighting for what we stand for. Why? Because somebody out there has promised us something, which in fact is a deceit and it's a lie. You shouldn't be compromising your values for no opportunity on this planet, for no career on this planet. I have never done that, ever in my life, and I refuse to do it. I had a friend from another country a few years ago, and in one of the conversations, she said to me, Saimira, you have a lot of potential. You should be further ahead in life. You're not going fast enough. And I said, my dear, this is how much you achieve in life without compromising anything. This is it. Okay? In this world, this is how much you can achieve based on who I am, without letting go of who I am, without compromising my values, without kissing anybody's behind, without playing the victim, without manipulating and lying anybody, without using and misusing and slandering anybody's name. This is how much you get. That's it. Because this world doesn't offer you much. This world is not built for honest people. It was supposed to. That was his purpose. But of course, we have jeopardized and ruined everything. Yeah, that's what has happened. So, whatever you've achieved in life, without having to compromise who you are, be proud. Okay? Do not go around compare yourself with people that are ahead of you because you don't know how they got there. That's the mistake we do nowadays. We compare, right? We compare, we compete, we have no idea how that person got ahead. And then years later, when everything blows, because that's the beauty of life, whatever is done in the darkness comes to the light. Sooner or later, those people don't realize it, but the truth always comes on top. Always. Even 20 years after that. And then we hear about these people and we think, oh my God, really? And then we are glad we didn't compromise our values to get to where that person was. These people risk a lot. They risk everything. They lose everything they are for that one golden opportunity. But anyway, let's not get away from the topic. What is another feature of leaders? Leaders take criticism seriously. Leaders always criticize themselves first. They don't go around blaming everybody. It's your fault that I failed. It's your fault. It's your fault. No, they don't. The first thing they do is they look in the mirror and they say, okay, wait a minute. Did I do something wrong here? Where did I went wrong? And then they fix that problem. That's what a leader does. Now, before I get to the next part here, let's talk about the opposite of a leader. Huh? It's very interesting. This is very important. Not just to distinguish who really people are, but it's important to not fall for the games and for the lies that everybody tells us. I have written some qualities here, so I don't forget them. What is the opposite of a leader? The opposite of a leader is a person who I call an empty vessel. An empty vessel, or empty vessels, which are many nowadays, basically it's the majority of our societies, those are people that produce nothing. Those people produce nothing. Those are basically empty vessels. They are empty from inside. Okay, have you noticed people that have 2 PhDs, 3 masters, a lot of diplomas, whatever, qualifications, but then when you get into a conversation with them and you ask them about a topic that's a little bit outside of their expertise, they are not able to provide any input. They are empty. Those people have no vision. Now, this is not the scary part. The scary part is that these people feed off other people because they cannot produce anything themselves. They hang after other people. And the last point of these empty vessels is they will betray you, as I said. The moment they see no interest in you, goodbye, my friend. It was nice working with you. They no more know you. They will see you in an event and they won't even speak to you because they have no interest in you. But if you get back on your feet again and you go on the top again, they will come back. Oh yes, they will come back. That's how shallow they are. No problem. Oh, hi, Samir. I haven't seen you in years. How are you? I've heard you have started a new project. Oh, would you like to talk about it? With a cup of coffee, maybe? No. Because I don't need you. You need me. I don't need you. So, this is just basic principles. I have written a very interesting quote here that I liked it, so I wrote it down. You can't put a crown on a clown and expect it to be a king. That's exactly what these empty shallows are. Those people could have the biggest the biggest experiences, the biggest qualifications, the most finest education to the best universities. I know people who have studied in the top universities in the world, but they aren't able to create anything. They're just about the books. They can talk about the books, they have studied a lot, but they produce nothing. There's nothing there. It's empty. Such people will never become leaders. I don't care how many connections you have, okay? Because let's stop here, because this is one of the problems. In the societies that we have created, we make leaders, or we produce leaders based on the network they have, based on the name that they have built, on the brand that they have built out there. Not on the ability to produce and create, not on the ability to have a vision and to sell that vision and to get the society behind them, because the vision is beautiful, because the society sees the vision is important for them, because it helps them grow and move and push the societies forward with the agenda, with any agenda. We do not create such leaders anymore. We create copy-paste managers that produce nothing, but that they follow the rules that somebody before them has created. The purpose of leadership is to take what everybody has created and bring it to the next level. The purpose of a leadership is progress, growth, improvement, change. That's why I said in the beginning, a leader is an agent of change. He stirs the waters because he wants to change something that will benefit everybody, not his pocket, everybody, just like Nehemiah. So let's get back to Nehemiah. In the chapter 2, what he does. What does he do? Okay, he cried, he was sad about it, and then he was just a cupbearer, right? He didn't have much power. He served the king, yes, that was nice position. But on his own, he didn't have any power, basically. But the fact that he cried tells us a lot about who he was, right? Nowadays, we don't cry about causes, about our countries, about poverty, about what's happening with the wars around us, about serving a bigger cause. We cry about losing a job. We cry about a bank account. We cry about a man that has left us. Shallow, 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 shallow. Yeah, all shallow. So, Nehemiah sent to Judah. Chapter 2. In the month of Nisan, in the 20th year of King Artaxerxes, that was the name of the king that Nehemiah served, that he was a Persian king. This was 4 months later. So basically, from the moment that he heard about the situation in Jerusalem to the moment that he took action for it, 4 months passed. In these 4 months, he prayed. He prayed. Yeah. In the 20th year of King Artaxerxes, when wine was before him, so before the king, I took up the wine and gave it to the king. So he was doing his job. Now I had not been sad in his presence. Now, being sad in the presence of the king could cost you your life. Why? Because the king didn't want sadness around him. It would impact his emotions and everything, his decision-making, whatever. I don't know how exactly that it is played in those times, because the Bible does not explain that exactly here. But from the readings and the preachers and the sermons that I listen, it's because the king wanted joy. Joy was one of the conditions to be around the king and to work for the king. You had to be joyous. You needed a smile on your face. Nobody needed your sadness. Yeah. So, and the king said to me, "Why is your face sad, seeing you are not sick?" So you're not sick. Why are you so sad? "This is nothing but sadness of the heart." So something heavy is in your heart. This is not about you being sick or anything. Nobody died. But I can see that your heart is aching. That's what the king said to him. "Then I was very much afraid," says Nehemiah. He was afraid because, as I said, being sad in front of the king could cost you your life. But talking about your sadness could go even further. it could trigger the king to take drastic measures. So he was afraid to tell him what was bothering him, even though he worked for the king, even though he was trustworthy, he was obedient to the king. The king trusted him with his life. But still, the authority of the kings back then was such that even the spouse or the wife of the king would need some kind of permission, timing, the right moment to approach the king and to talk to the king. I said to the king, let the king live forever. Why should not my face be sad? When the city, the place of my father's graves, lies in ruins and its gates have been destroyed by fire. So he tells the king how he feels. Why is this where this sadness comes from? Then the king said to me, what are you requesting? So what are you telling me? What do you want? Right? So I prayed to the God of heaven. And I said to the king, first he prayed. So he did a quick prayer in his head, like, oh God, please let him not kill me. I'm guessing, right? Because this is not a long prayer that he would do with words before the king, whatever. But it was a prayer with his mind, like, okay, I'm going to tell him what's bothering me, but I'm hoping he doesn't kill me, right? Because I'm wasting his time, basically. I'm just his servant, right? Who am I to even be, right, listened to by the king? So he said to the king, if it pleases the king, and if your servant has found favor in your sight, that you send me to Judah, to the city of my father's graves, that I may rebuild it. So notice here what he says. If it pleases the king, so if you would like, but most importantly, that's what a true leader does. Most importantly, if your servant has found favor in your sight, if I deserve it. If you think I deserve this opportunity, give it to me. I don't want any favors. I want what's mine. That's how a leader thinks. Yeah. So you can let me go. He needed permission to leave, to go to build my father's city. And the king said to me, the queen sitting beside him, how long will you be gone, and when will you return? So he wanted to know how long this project is going to take. So it pleased the king to send me, and I had given him a time. And I said to the king, if it pleases the king, if it also pleases the king, let letters be given to me to the governors of the province beyond the river, that they may let me pass through until I come to Judah. And a letter to Asap, the keeper of the king's forest, and he may give me timber to make beams for the gates of the fortress of the temple, and for the wall of the city, and for me, house that I shall occupy. And the king granted me what I asked, for the good hand of my God was upon me. So what he's doing here, he's asking the king for permission, letters, to write letters to the authorities of the city that he was going to, because you can't just go in a country and build something, right? You need permission, even nowadays, right? You need to go to City Hall, have permission, whatever, present your project. But mostly because of the enemies, he was afraid for his life. He had no idea what was awaiting him there, back there, because he wasn't born in Jerusalem. He was born in captivity. He had no idea what was happening in his country. And he had no idea what to expect, and he needed security. So he asked the king to write some letters to the authorities to let him pass through the forests and through the other places so he could reach his destination. But most importantly, notice what he says in the last sentence. And the king granted me what I asked, for the good hand of my God was upon me. Why is he saying this? Now, do you think it's a coincidence that God called Nehemiah to have this vision and to do this purpose, to do this big project? He could have called somebody outside of the king's palace, right? He could have called someone, one of these brothers that he says that went and came back from Jerusalem and they knew what was going on. There were plenty of people he could have called, but he called Nehemiah. Why? Because he knew he would need some help. He had the help of the king. That was not a coincidence. He had the support of a very important authority. He was safe. He was not afraid to get going with his project. Because often we think, that these leaders or these people with vision that like to lead and they take ownership of their dreams, and we just think they're just lucky. They just are lucky, and they get in life. That's not it. It has nothing to do with the luck. You are called to fulfill that dream, and you are provided with opportunities. You are provided with the tools and the mechanisms to fulfill it. Like right here. If he wasn't working for the king, who would have helped him to get all these letters? Only a person in authority could have done that. And that was the king. And only a person who was pleased with his service could have done it. And that was the king. Now imagine if Nehemiah was someone that the king didn't even recognize or didn't even like, or a peasant that served the king, because thousands of people served the king, right? And there were many layers in the palace, right? From the people in the kitchen, from the people doing the groceries, from the people, personal advisors. Nehemiah was one of his closest people. But if he wasn't satisfied with his work, he would have not given him that opportunity. He would have simply said, no, you're not going. I need you. I need you here. Now, when Nehemiah says, I prayed quickly to the Lord, and then I told the king what my worry was, there is a reason there. Because Nehemiah knew that God had to put something in the king's heart. Because why would the king care about building a wall in Jerusalem? He didn't care about it. Why would he care? He was fine. So what happened there? He loved Nehemiah so much as to, yes, that could have been a reason. He trusted him, but he wasn't obliged to let him go. As I said, he could have simply said no, and a king, when he says no, it was a no. And that was the end of the Nehemiah's dream. So Nehemiah knew that he had to pray to the Lord, to put it in the king's heart to let him go. He knew how God operates. Then, in chapter 3, or at least it's still chapter 2, when Nehemiah goes to Judah. So what does he do here? Let's see. So again, I'm not reading everything because this is a long paragraph. I'm going to read only the sentences that are important to underline here. So I went to Jerusalem and was there for 3 days. I arose in the night, I and a few men with me, just me and a few men, trustworthy people. And I told no one what my God had put into my heart to do for Jerusalem. I told no one. There were no animal with me but the one on which I rode, so basically just the donkey or the horse, whatever he was riding on to get there. I went out by night. By night. So nobody saw him. By the valley gate to the dragon spring and to the dung gate, and I inspected the walls of Jerusalem that were broken down, and its gates that had been destroyed by fire. And the officials did not know where I had gone or what I was doing. And I had not yet told the Jews, the priests, the nobles, those were basically the elite of the country, the officials and the rest who were to do the work. Even the workers that had to work on the wall, they also knew nothing. They knew nothing about the project. Just Nehemiah and a few people. Why? Because this is the important question here. Why would he go like that? Was he sneaky? Was he? No. He was being protective of his dream. Now, opposition to the work when the devil shows up. Ooh, well, that's interesting. Now, he says, chapter 4, when Sanballat heard that we were building the wall, he was angry. This was one of the city's authorities, basically. He was angry and greatly enraged, and he jeered at the Jews. He basically made fun of them. And he said in the presence of his brothers and of the army of Samaria, what are these feeble Jews doing? Like, what do you think you're doing? Coming in here with your big vision and stirring my waters. This is my city. Yeah, I've had it in control for so many years. Who do you think you are? Coming here wanting change. Did you ask me first? It's all about control and power, right? Will they restore it for themselves? Will they sacrifice? Will they finish up in a day? He's talking about the wall now. What are they going to do with this wall? They don't have the resources. They have nothing. They will revive the stones out of the heaps of rubbish and burned ones and that. So basically the wall was so in such a bad shape and destroyed that it had to be built from the ground. It was not a wall that was damaged and you had to build from there up. It was to the ground, it was burned, everything was gone. So they really had to build first a foundation, a strong foundation, just the way we build a house. We have to go underneath the ground and build a foundation so that the house can stay. And it's the same with this wall. They had to do it from the ground. And they finished it in 52 days. That's how determined Nehemiah was and his people, because he didn't do it on his own. But the work has meanwhile started. Nehemiah had gathered his people, the trustworthy people, and the people who wanted to work on the wall. Nobody was excluded. Everybody who wanted, who shared the deep feeling about their country, right? That patriotship, right? Being a patriot, that has nothing to do with nationalism. Let's not mix things. But they were true patriots and they wanted to build something for their country because it was also a protection from the enemies. They protected their own families that way. It was not just about the country itself. There were many levels to this mission. And they understood that. And they believed in the purity of heart of Nehemiah. So they followed him. When our enemies heard that it was known to us and that God had frustrated their plan, because these enemies here, they wanted to stop him. They wanted to stop him. We all returned to the wall, each to his work. From that day on, half of my servants worked on construction and half held the spears, shields, bows, and coats of mail. And the leaders stood behind the whole house of Judah. So this is chapter 4. The first point I made was here, work in silence because of these attacks, right? Do not share your vision and projects with people before the time is right because of the reasons that I mentioned. People will attack you. It's not just because people don't believe in you. That's the least of the problems. People will attack you on purpose because they don't want you to. Some people are simply afraid from your potential. It's that easy. They're just scared. Where is she going to end up? What is she achieving? What is she doing? Why not me but her? You can think of the most ridiculous ways as a reason for opposition, trust me. Sometimes it's the most ridiculous ways. I remember when I shared that dream with family, the first reaction was, yeah, why not get a job? The salaries are pretty good in the Netherlands. What are you doing? This is volunteer work. Nobody's paying you for this. You're not making any money. Because some people are simply that shallow. Some people do not understand that the world has progressed not by doing a job. The world has progressed by vision, by sight and insight into things. The people that have changed the world, they didn't go for a job to make money and buy a house. They had a vision, they had a dream in their heart, and they believed in it, and they fought for it, and they protected that dream, and they didn't give up. They went through struggles and through everything that they went to make that dream happen so that other people, other generations would enjoy that, to advance the societies, to progress us as humanity. That's what a visionary person does. That's what a leader does. So do not expect to have validation and support from shallow people. These empty vessels will never support you because they do not understand you and they do not understand your calling, and they are not supposed to understand your calling because they are not going to work with you. That's why God separates these people, visionary from shallow, because they will never mean anything to you. You might mean something to them, right? Like when you grow something, your business, you might give a job to them, offer them something, right? But they won't mean anything to you because they produce nothing. A visionary person works with people on his level, with visionary people, with people that support. Even when people are followers, they will criticize you and they will tell you what you're doing wrong. And you need these people on the way. You need these people on your journey to be able to keep your sight clear, not get delusional on your path, not get fooled by whatever compliments these manipulators and opportunists are telling you. That's how you lose sight of your focus. You need to stay focused, and you need this kind of people up behind you to tell you, hey, no, you're the leader, but just a moment. Wait a minute, because this is not okay. This is not benefiting anybody. And a leader will sit and listen. Yeah. So then, opposition. Now, one of the principles that I have learned in my journey with God is the higher you go, the stronger the opposition becomes, the more enemies you'll have. Or said otherwise by other people in a more funny way, new levels, new devils. That's what we say. That is one of my favorite quotes. New levels, new devils. And the more the attacks on your life are, or on your vision, the bigger your calling is. The enemy doesn't attack an empty vessel. The devil is not interested in somebody who produces nothing. The devil is interested in people who challenge him, challenge his ways. So do not be afraid by your attacks. Whatever your dream is, whatever your calling is, you will always be attacked. If you are not attacked in your life by anybody, that means you're doing something wrong. When you start getting attacked by people, that means you are standing for something in your life. You mean something. You carry something. You have something in you. Okay, that's how you know if you're on the right path. Because people ask me all the time, okay, Saimira, but I'm doing something, but how do I know I'm on the right path? Well, that's one of the signs. One of the signs is people will start attacking you. They will ridicule you. That's also one of the ways. They start laughing in your face. Really? You really think you are that? Poor you. You really think you can achieve that? No, you won't. That's what people tell you. In today's world, that's what they tell you because they want you to give up on your dream. That is why sharing prematurely is not a good idea. Okay? Now, what Nehemiah started doing here, I'm not going to go into reading a lot here, but I will go through the points anyway because I don't want to make this video too long. So if you wish, anytime that I do this, you can open your Bible in the meanwhile and you just read in it and you just follow me by reading in it and you can see how the story goes. So you can read the story of Nehemiah. It's fascinating by going into the further chapters, chapter 5, chapter 6. But I will cover these points a little bit shorter because I don't want to make the videos too long. Now, what happened here was the enemy was getting frustrated because the work kept going. And Nehemiah was even threatened with his life, basically. In one of the chapters here, in chapter 5, conspiracy against Nehemiah. So they went so far as to want to take his life. Yeah, that's how far people will go to stop you. Now, when Sanballat and Tobiah and Geshem the Arab and the rest of our enemies heard that I had built the wall, meanwhile, the wall was almost done, right? The work continued while they were attacking. Nehemiah was motivating the people behind him. Keep going, because people were discouraged. If you read these chapters, you will understand that people started getting discouraged. They started getting tired. They started getting fearful of the enemy because they could see the attacks and they were afraid and they wanted to stop. But that is also another function of the leader, to keep his people motivated, to keep his people alive. Don't give up. And what Nehemiah did was he went straight to God. He didn't respond to the enemies. He didn't go to fight with them. He went to God and prayed, God, take these people off my back. Please let me do my work in peace, because I don't have time to deal with these leeches behind that try to discourage me. I need people who support me and who believe in my dream. And if they don't, they should not stand in my way. They should move because they are blocking the traffic, you know. So he says, when these enemies heard that I had built the wall and that there was no breach left in it, although up to that time I had not set up the doors in the gates, so basically it was almost ready, done, Sanballat and Geshem sent people to him, saying, come and let us meet together in Hakephirim in the plain of Ono. But they intended to do me harm. So when the enemy's attacks do not succeed, they will try to lure you into a situation where they can attack you in private and finish you. That's what happened back then. I don't know nowadays because I am not in a leadership position. I have no idea. Could happen. But I'm not going to do conspiracy theories here because I do not believe in theories that I cannot prove. So what Nehemiah did was send messengers to him saying, I am doing a great work and I cannot come down. Why should the work stop while I leave it and come down to you? And they sent to me 4 times in this way, and I answered them in the same manner. They sent people 4 times to tell him to get him somewhere else, isolated, away from his people where he was protected, right? And to kill him. And he answered the same way. Why should I leave my work to come to you? Who are you? My work is very important. And that brings us to the lesson of focus. Focus is very important in whatever you're building, because people will come to distract you. People will come to distract you. They will invite you for coffee, not because they want to drink coffee with you. They want to hear your plans. That's how the enemy works. That's how the wicked people work. They will be polite and they will lure you in. Oh, I'm your friend now. Let's have a coffee. I bought this present for you. But now you should tell me your plans so I can ruin them behind your back. And that's how shallow vessels, empty vessels that produce nothing, work, basically. So the enemy will use trickery, right? When they cannot defeat you in your face, they will do things behind your back. They will slander your name. And if they are totally failing to ruin you and whatever vision you have, they're gonna try to turn other people against you so that other people close doors in front of your face. But here's the funny thing: when all these people think that they have ruined your chances to do or be anybody, God will send total strangers on your way. Total strangers, people you have never seen in your life, will come in your life, sent by Him. That's not a coincidence, because they come in the right moment. That's not a coincidence either. They will come into your life and help you. Before I started what I'm doing now, I met there was an old couple in an event I went. and I had a speech somewhere, and they came to me at the end of the event, because we were sitting on the same table basically, and they said, you should do something about this. Literally, those were total strangers, but they saw the potential. They saw the potential in what I was giving out there, in what I was saying. They didn't know me. I never met these people in my life. But they said something that really, really meant a lot to me. And it confirmed that not everybody is your enemy. There are people, someone, sometimes total strangers, that will come in your way to support you, to tell you, keep going. Even when I had that organization that I thought back then I had failed with, I had great people that would encourage me all the time. What a beautiful vision you have. What a beautiful, powerful project you have. Congratulations. Don't give up on this. This is beautiful what you're doing. Those were the people that will keep you going. Those are the people that will lift you but also fuel you. Not because of the validation, but because they see something in you that you also see it in you. That makes you think and believe that you're not crazy. That dream is not unachievable. That vision that you have, it's beautiful. Because you're not the only one seeing it. There are other people seeing it. And that is important because you cannot do it alone. You need these other people to build. Just like Nehemiah did. He needed everybody to build together. So the trickery of the enemy will not succeed. If you walk with God, and if that vision you carry is from Him, I guarantee you, you will not fail. You will not. Because there's a reason He called you. There's a reason He put that in your heart and not somebody else. He wants you to do it. He doesn't want your family to do it. He doesn't want your friends to do it. He wants you to do it. That's why you should believe in yourself. Don't go around chasing people and everybody else trying to convince them how beautiful your dream is. That's not how it works, my friend. You will achieve nothing but downplay. You will achieve nothing but attacks. If you go around telling people, I have a dream, but what do you think about it? Do you like it? No, that's not the attitude of a leader. Not at all. Not at all. A leader does not play insecure. A leader goes out there and says, this is my dream. Do you want to hear it or not? Yeah, but maybe you should, Okay, move. You're not interested. Next. That's what a leader does. Until you find the people that support you. Do not regret any lost opportunity. You have lost nothing. Those were people that never were there for you in the first place. Even if you go through lessons where you are betrayed by people that you worked with or you believed in and you trusted and you saw the potential in them, do not regret it. You know why? They were never meant to stay. Those people were there to teach you a lesson. And the lesson is, do not trust everybody. Be careful who you trust. The bad news is in this world, we don't know who to trust. We don't know. But a true leader is careful. That does not mean that a true leader is not played, does not make mistakes, does not fail, does not go through hardships. No, that's not what I'm saying. But a true leader is careful. Is careful when to speak. Is careful who he shares or she shares her dreams with. Is careful who she gets into her team. I've worked with people for years that had a great CV, they had a great behavior, they worked perfectly in team, they had all the qualities you would be searching for that job, and still something inside, right here, that intuition told me, don't trust her 100%. Don't trust him 100%. Don't. There's something fishy about them. Because that is God's gift of discernment to be able to see through people, through their masks. Because these shallow vessels will put a mask on and they will introduce themselves as your savior. When in fact, they are opportunists and users. They are there to take, not to give. They just want to take. Okay, whatever you have. The more, the better for them. So let me see. What else do I have here? This is about leadership. I have this, okay. So I had a few notes in here. The last lesson in the leadership of Nehemiah. In chapter 5, or in chapter, let me see, in chapter 6, was it? Let me see, because I made a lot of notes, but they are messy a little bit. Why are my notes so messy? Messy, messy, messy. I'm not gonna sing, I promise, because I suck at that. There's a chapter here, in chapter 7, I think. The wall is finished, but the this chapter is about internal attacks. See, the enemy has two ways to attack you. He attacks you from outside and from the inside. Who is from the outside? From the outside is the work circle, everybody you work with, people you share your vision with, projects, your team, people that don't know you, right? They will just comment something on social media because they don't like your face. You know, sometimes it's just as simple. They just don't like your face. That's it. Internal, in the story of Nehemiah, after the people had built the wall, they started complaining about taxes because the same people, their own brothers and sisters that were in power in that city, they were taxing them too much. They were taxing them so much they weren't able to survive anymore. They had to rent every single thing they had, every parcel of their ownership and of their ground to be able to survive, to eat, basically, just food. And Nehemiah saw that. And he went into negotiations with these people, with the elite and people on top, to tell them to drop these taxes, to not use their people. Those are the same nation. Those people were the same nation. They were basically using the people who were in need. And so these people complained to Nehemiah, and he tried to fix the problem. But if you go deeper in spiritual terms, you can see that that is one of the ways that the enemy attacks us. The devil attacks us when he doesn't succeed externally because the wall has already been finished and nobody from these authorities or whoever was in charge was able to stop Nehemiah and his people. They finished what God had called him to do. They finished it. Because nobody will stop God's calling. Nobody will stop God's plans. No matter who your enemy you think it is. No matter what you think that enemy can do to you, they can't. If God has set it for you to be the one to finish a project, to have a vision, and to complete that vision, there is no witch and witchcraft on this planet that can stop that. They will deviate you maybe, they will distract you, you might be delayed for a couple of years, but nothing will stop. That is what when I see that I'm attacked by somebody, the first thought that comes in my head is, you didn't stop anything. Yes, you distracted me a little bit, but you didn't stop anything. Do not fool yourself, dear enemy. So when the enemy fails externally, attacking you with strangers, authorities, whoever is attacking, they go internally. The enemy goes internally. He attacks you with the most closest people. Sometimes he will turn your own spouse, your own wife against you. Sometimes he will turn your brother against you. Have you heard of these people who kill each other in the family? There are a lot of tragedies like that everywhere. A father kills a daughter, a brother kills a sister, a husband kills a wife. It has happened a lot throughout the history. We know plenty of examples. That's the internal attack. That's how the devil strikes us internally, because he cannot break us externally. So he will use the most trustworthy people to betray you. That person that you believed for years, that was the right one. That was the one you loved with all your heart. And you would never ever betray him. You would do anything for him or her. They betray you. Just like that. like you never existed. So the moral of the whole story is whatever God has for you, nobody can stop it. You should sleep like a baby. Okay? Do not be concerned about nothing. If you walk with Him, make sure you walk with Him though. If you walk with Him, nope. No weapon against me shall prosper, said King David in one of the most known Psalms in the Bible. No weapon against me shall prosper. Why? Because I walk with God. I walk with Him. And whoever tries to fight His will, you'll find out what happens to them. Let me go through few short messages maybe here, because I would like to wrap it up. There was an interesting message here about Nehemiah that I read, and I really liked it. And I wanted to read to you. So what Nehemiah basically did through all these stages was he prayed, he believed, he encouraged, he was focused on his work. He didn't share his vision with anybody. He didn't trust everybody. He chose his people carefully. He inspired people. He did a lot for his people. He represented them in the most noble, gracious way possible. That is the kind of person and the kind of people that God has called us to live in this life. Unfortunately, in our societies, we do not see graceful people anymore. No, we don't. We see attacks. We see angry people. We see people that put you down just because you are a little bit better than them. This life is not about being better than anybody. They do not understand that. Yeah, they see that as a threat. They see other people's potential as a threat, as a personal threat. They do not see it as an opportunity and as a chance to advance, to go and work with that person and say, I am here for you. Yes, I might have some envy. I might have some jealousy. It's human. I'm only a human. I'm not God. But I'm working on it, and I want to help you to advance your vision, because your vision will serve not only you, it will serve me, and it will serve my kids when they grow up as well. That is how stupid some people are. They do not understand that. They do not understand that leadership, true leadership, being called for a bigger purpose, is not about me and it's not about you. It's about something bigger. It's about building. It's about advancing. It's about making this world a better place. That's what it's all about. And we have failed to understand that. Which means that's why we attack people who can do that for us. Instead of being grateful and instead of saying, thank you for this vision, thank you. How can I help you to advance this vision? No, we go and we attack people and we put them down. We are attacking smart, good people, people in leadership, people that are potential, they have great potential to advance all of us. We are attacking them. Why? Because stupid people feel insecure, because stupid people feel in danger by our potential and by other people's potential that are called to do something powerful. Now that's the situation we have created among our societies. And until that changes, my friend, we are not going anywhere. Okay? Because let me tell you something. Leaders are not produced every day. Leaders are not a mass-produced article. Leaders might be twice, 3 times called in an entire generation sometimes. That's what a true leader is. That's how rare a leader is. Yeah, despite what you are told, despite what everybody tries to sell you, that everybody is a leader. No, my friend, not everybody is a leader because not everybody is called to be a leader, and because not everybody is equipped to be a leader. You need to be equipped with all these qualities and values that I mentioned in the beginning. Now, when you read those values and qualities that I mentioned, just reflect and ask yourself, how many people around you in your circle do you know that have these qualities? Be my guest. Make a simple mathematical calculation and find out how many leaders you might have in your circle. Let me tell you how much. 0. 0, because leaders are a rare breed. And this is the biggest pain in our societies. Instead of encouraging them, we put them down. We attack them. Well, you want to live that kind of life? Be my guest. I refuse to live that kind of life. I will continue to support everybody that wants to advance a cause in this society, to make this world a better place, no matter who that is. It could be a total stranger. It doesn't matter. Now here, another lesson that we learn from Nehemiah is that this discouragement that these people had, that they started complaining, is because they had removed their eyes from the Lord. And as I said in the beginning, the purpose of God was bigger than just building the wall. It was getting these people back to Him, back to trust Him, back to have faith in God. And the first thing that Nehemiah did when these people started complaining that the wall wasn't finished, that they were tired, that the taxes were too high, they didn't have bread, whatever they were complaining about, his first advice to these people, he gathered them and he said, the reason that you feel the way you feel, in pain, discouraged, down, unmotivated, it's because you have moved your eyes away from the Lord. Fix your vision. Fix, where are you looking at? Are you focused on what the world is telling you, or are you focused on what God is telling you? He is telling you, focus on the vision. Leave the details to me. Who's going to come and help you? Where are you going to get the money from? I'll take care of those things. I will bring the right things on your path. You don't have to figure it out on your own. Focus on me. Keep your eyes on me. Keep praying to me, so that I can provide you all these things that you need to keep moving. The title of this video will be Leadership, How the Work of a Man Can Change a Nation. Okay? After Nehemiah finished this project, Jews were a changed nation. They had changed completely. It wasn't even about the wall. It was what the wall represented. It was a reason for unity, a reason for doing the right things in life, in the right way, by faith and with God in front of us. We do not walk in front of God. God walks in front of us, and we follow Him by faith, not by sight, by faith, because the faith will bring you to the sight, not the other way around. You don't see first and then you believe. You believe and then you see the results. That's how God works. Yeah? So if you're not doing it, if you're doing this wrong, you're in time to change it. Just switch around. I had something, but I do not remember. Oh yeah, I think it was here. Yeah. Yeah, this was the message that I wanted to share. Basically, I already said it. The intention behind God's deeds was using Nehemiah. So Nehemiah was the vessel to fulfill God's purpose. God does not come to earth to fulfill His purpose. He doesn't do it on your own. He uses us as vessels. He gives us a vision. He gives us a mission. He gives us a calling. He gives us the right people, the right profession. The right profession. Do you think if I had become a singer that I would ended up to where I'm now? No, of course not. Because the journey, the purpose, and the start, the first calling is very important. The first calling is very important. It could come through a profession, it could come through an advice, it could come through a spouse, it doesn't matter. But it is important for the rest of the journey and for the way that God wants to use you. Even when I entered the politics, many years after I did law, I said the same thing. I do not tolerate injustice. I like to be righteous. Righteousness is my best value. Righteousness is my best principle. Righteousness and justice is what I stand for in this life. And I call myself an agent of change. That's how I introduced myself into politics. I did not have a specific cause. I did not have a very clear path on which way am I going to go, because of course in politics you need to take a direction. You need to know what your calling is there. Within that calling you need to find your calling. That's how it works. If you want to get ahead, because politics is, it needs us as well. We should be able to provide. Politics is the ability to produce and co-create as well. So I still didn't know what my creation moment was, what my vision within that was. And I found out after several years, after many years, by practicing, by being involved, by doing campaigns, by supporting the ideology that I stood behind and I still stand behind. I learned a lot and I found myself. I found my direction within that profession. But the first step is very important. We are being used as vessels. You can change professions 20 times throughout your life. You can go through one. I started my career as a journalist. Then I went into law, then into politics, then into nonprofit. It has been a long journey, but ask me how much knowledge and wisdom I have accumulated. Enormous, enormous. There is no university in the world that can teach you what I have taught from the practice by being in each of these professions. Many people, these wicked people and these empty vessels, will see that as instability. I have people in my life telling me, what are you doing? You're jumping from one profession to the other one. What is this? What are you doing? And I would laugh in their face because they had no idea what they were talking about. Some people are here just to be stuck in one job. And after 20 years, I still have colleagues back in my country where I come from, where we worked in the same television channel. We were colleagues, and I respect them greatly. But they are still in the same position. They are still doing the same job that they did 20 years ago. Meanwhile, I've changed 4 professions. And I'm not saying this to brag. I'm saying this for the value of the experience. For the value of the experience and the way that he calls you to go. I didn't doubt him calling me to change course every time. It was not because I was failing in each of these professions. That was not the reason. The reason was I took everything I needed from that profession and I had to invest it in the next level, and next level. So if you see the path, it's not a straight path. It's steps. It has gone up and up and up. That is how he works. Because you do not produce nothing by being in the same position 20 years. There's nothing to produce there. You could be very visionary, but there is nothing there. Because you get what you can get out of it in 5 years. And that's it. You either move to the next position, it could be within the same company, but you move. Because the purpose is growth. The purpose is serving his calling for your life, in your life. To serve a purpose. So if you're not fulfilling that purpose, ask yourself, what am I doing? We are here to serve, all of us. In different ways, but we are here to serve. The goal is the same. It never changes. It never changes. So behind the goal was to lead these people back to faith. They have lost their ways. Why? Because people without faith will destroy the wall again. Right? You can build your whole life, but if you don't have the right tools to keep it, the faith, the determination, the vision, you will lose it. You will lose it. There's nothing there. So that was the purpose of Nehemiah. It could have been somebody else, but God had called him to fulfill an important mission, a beautiful mission, and he did it. He led people back to God. And despite the attacks of the enemy, he didn't give up. I'm going to leave you with this message of Nehemiah. And I'm going to add something to it, a few sentences, because this is important. Don't give up on yourself. Don't give up on yourself. When God puts a dream in your heart, a calling, whatever that is, you owe it to yourself. And you owe it to Him. If you want to give up for yourself, you can give up for yourself. Nobody cares. You think the world will stop because you stopped with your dream? No, the world keeps spinning in the same filth that it is. But you owe it to Him. If you don't want to do it for yourself, do it for Him. Because it's a duty. It's a duty. When He calls you to do something, He's not telling you, well, if you have the time for it, go do your 9-to-5 job. And if you have some free time, you can answer to my calling, and you can follow this. This is just a hobby, fill your time because you have nothing to do. That's not a vision is what a vision is. That's not what a calling is all about. A calling is priority. Sometimes you have to leave your job the way I did to chase that calling, to fulfill it, because something inside of you knows. The mind cannot explain it, but the soul knows, because the soul is straightforwardly connected with the other source, with God. And that tells you in silence that this is for me and I will accomplish it. I might fail, but this is a risk I'm willing to take. And as I said, there is no failure, because I am going to take the lesson with me and invest it in something else, something bigger, something more beautiful. Why? Because I know God is with me. And even when I fail, or when I'm let down and I think I can do nothing anymore, I can't produce anymore, He will put a new seed in you. Nothing is lost. You lose nothing in this life. Take that from me as a rule. You lose nothing.